Here for another Pauper video. We are playing blue-white Affinity with a twist. The twist is we are playing red for Krark Clan Shaman. And Krark Clan Shaman is really good in this format right now. Because, well, what it does, it's a 1 mana 1/1. You sacrifice an artifact, and Krark Clan Shaman deals 1 damage to each creature without flying. What this means is that decks that blue-white Affinity is normally pretty bad against, for example, Elves, Walls combo, Krark Clan Shaman can single-handedly win those matchups for you. Another deck that it's good against is Kuldotha Red. I don't even want to call it Kuldotha Burn anymore because they only run like 8 burn spells. But basically, they run Namesticker Goblin, they run Kuldotha tokens, they run Goblin Bushwhacker. They're trying to swarm you out with a lot of creatures. Guess what? We can destroy all those creatures with this card. So this is a great card, and you know, it's not great in every matchup, but I feel like this deck is strong enough that you can afford to play these cards, which are dead some of the time. But even when they're quote-unquote dead, they still have some utility. Like, for example, against Ponza, you could clear off an Arbor Elf or get through a board stall or something. So the mana base to support this, actually, it looks like there's not that many red sources, but we're also running 4 Springleaf Drum. So I'm going to move these over here. So we're running 8 red sources. Admittedly, that's still not that much. But we're also running card draw to help get us to this point. And our red cards are generally late game cards most of the time anyways. So yeah, it's totally fine to run a little bit light on red sources. At least it didn't hurt any of my games. So rounding out the deck, we have 17 lands plus 4 Springleaf Drums. These are our mana sources. Most of our lands tap for blue and white, and that's to facilitate our card draw. We are running 8 card draw spells, which are draw 2 for 1 blue mana, basically. So this one has Affinity, which reduces the cost. This one reduces the cost based on whether you have a human plus a non-human, but it ends up being the same thing most of the time. 1 mana, draw 2. Pretty sweet deal. And for our creatures, we're running, for our non-human creatures, we're running Krark Clan Shaman, obviously. Ginger Brute, which has haste. You can pay a mana to give it what is basically unblockable. Phyrexian Walker, it's an 0/3 for 0, and Ornithopter, which is an 0/2 flyer for 0. Ornithopter is better most of the time, but sometimes the 3 toughness on Phyrexian Walker comes in handy. For example, in the league that I play, there's a red deck where they play a lot of copies of Seal of Fire, and Phyrexian Walker having 3 toughness ends up being essential to winning one of the games. For the humans, we're playing 4 copies of Thraben Inspector. It makes a clue. That clue is an artifact. It helps with your artifact synergies and draws a card. We're running 2 copies of Standard Bearer, which protects our Glitters creature. And we're running 4 copies of Heliod's Pilgrim to tutor for Glitters, basically. So what is this Glitters card? Well, probably you know it already if you have any experience with the Pauper format over the last month or so. Yeah, basically you enchant a creature, it gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment that you control, but mostly artifact. And this card is dang good. It basically turns Phyrexian Walker into like a 6/9, a 7/10, and you win the game in a couple of attacks. Benevolent Blessing is a card that you can also tutor with Heliod's Pilgrim to give a creature protection, so pretty good at protecting your Glitters. And then the rest of the spells, to round things out, we have Fling and Temur Battle Rage. These essentially do the same thing in that they sort of break through board stalls and they make it so that you can, win the game through non-combat means. We also have Metallic Rebuke, which is cool. We don't always have Improvise turned on. Sometimes it's basically just Mana Leak, but Mana Leak's fine. And Mana Tithe, which is another counter spell, which is really funny. Nobody expects it when you're holding up 1 white mana, and I like to just get people with it. Maybe this should be a Metallic Rebuke, but it's too funny not to run this. And in the sideboard we have, so basically we have Blacksmith Skill and Spell Pierce to protect our stuff, and Dust to Dust to destroy artifacts for our Affinity friends, Standard Bearer to beat Boggles and Gates, and a couple other matchups that target their own creatures, Heroic, Blue-White Affinity, etc. 4 copies of Hydroblast, and 1 copy of Honorable Scout, which are good against red decks, Krark Clan Shaman, and Gut Shot, which are good against creatures, and another Temur Battle Rage for extra muscle, and Lifelink, also good against burn and against decks where you're sort of trading hits back and forth. Alright, let's jump to the league. And I actually recorded these. Let's see. I'm just going to go through the playthrough because I've already played them out. And I'll just replay everything. So game 1 we are against Ho-Oh. And we lose the die roll. And we get a pretty good hand. Oh no, wait, this hand's horrible. It has no mana sources. We have to mulligan. This hand's pretty good. It has all of our colors. It has a Heliod's Pilgrim. It has Of One Mind. Probably the Of One Mind will get turned on within the next few turns, but even if it doesn't, okay, this hand's a little bit slow, but it's powerful. I think we send back the Fling. Oh no, we send back a land. I guess that makes sense. Probably we're going to draw either a land or a creature to turn on the Springleaf Drum. So, yeah, this is our decision. And our opponent leads on Mountain and Swift Spear and Lotus Petal. So this is kind of bad for us. They're running the very fast version of, Lotus Petal Kuldotha. And our hand is pretty slow. We draw a Thoughtcast, which is a pretty good draw. We have a bunch of artifacts in hand, and it should be turned on pretty quickly. And yeah, we just run out our Springleaf Drum. They play a Synthesizer, trigger Prowess. Let's see what they get off it. They get a Mountain, so they just play their Mountain immediately, which is cheating if you ask me. It's pretty strong. I don't like it. Luckily, we draw an Ornithopter, which is cool. We can play it. We can tap Springleaf Drum. We could play Heliod's Pilgrim if we want. We could also play Thoughtcast. If I remember correctly, I elect to play Heliod's Pilgrim. Yeah, so just using up all my mana and setting up for Of One Mind. And we get a Glitters here. Glitters is nice against red decks because generally if you can stick one, your creature will live through any sort of burn that they have. Now our opponent casts Namesticker Goblin with Wild Abandon, but I guess they've got some pretty powerful stuff that they want to ramp into. So they hit a 6 off it, which is bad for us. They have another Namesticker Goblin. Let's see how many they get this time. Okay, just 5. So they have 8 total mana, which is pretty terrifying. And then they play a Kuldotha Rebirth. So they have a lot of creatures out. Hopefully we draw our own Goblin, which can clear the board. And they Lightning Bolt our Heliod's Pilgrim. So, because they ran the Namesticker Goblins out, they had to tap all of their mana, so they can't leave up a Lightning Bolt for all that glitters. Now, granted, we don't actually have that many artifacts in play right now, so they're not really afraid of it, and also they have a way bigger board than us, but yeah. So anyway, they use up their mana, they attack us, and we're at 12. No, we're at 11 actually. Yeah, there were a lot of prowess triggers. Oh, look at that. It's Krark Land Shaman. Here to save us. So I deliberate a lot on this turn. This turn is kind of a tricky turn. Obviously, I want to play Krark Land Shaman and sacrifice 2 artifacts to wipe their board. And they've pretty much got nothing going on if we do that. However, there are some questions about how exactly we want to do that. So we could Thoughtcast first. We could also Glitters targeting our Krark Clan Shaman, which is a pretty cool interaction. You just buff your Krark Clan Shaman so that it doesn't kill itself. So let's see what we decide to do here. I think I probably just play Krark and then Glitters it up and sacrifice 2 artifacts. No, it looks like I'm Thoughtcasting. Yeah, I guess Thoughtcast makes sense because we do want to draw more artifacts to sacrifice. We don't want to sacrifice and put ourselves out of being able to cast Thoughtcast. So I think, yeah, that makes sense. So we cast Thoughtcast first. Luckily we hit an untapped land and another Springleaf Drum, which is pretty nice. Those are great things to sacrifice. So I tap my Ornithopter for red, I play Krark, and then I play Springleaf Drum, and then I tap this for white. So because I drew an untapped source, I'm allowed to do this. I put the glitters on the Krark, and then I sacrifice 2 things. I was probably just going to sacrifice probably both Springleaf Drums. Probably Ornithopter Drum. I don't know. It's a tricky decision, but luckily it doesn't matter too much because our opponent's dead. Okay. Game 2. So, let me see if I can get the image up here. Okay, so for our sideboard, we have oops. Okay, so this is our sideboard. Blacksmith Skill, Blue Blast. Obviously we want the Blue Blasts. And we want the other stuff. Okay. Okay, hang on. This thing is really small for some reason. Okay. So we want all our Krarks. Oh my god. Okay, so we want all of our Blue Blasts, we want all of our Krarks, and I think I also bring in Lifelink and Honorable Scout. So cards that I take out, I took out a Heliod's Pilgrim, an Of One Mind, a Metallic Rebuke, because our Blue Blasts are better at countering stuff. And I take out all the Flings and Teamer Battle Rages, because we don't really need them if we have a Krark Clan Shaman to wipe their board. And I also take out the Ginger Brutes. So we're swapping a lot of cards, but a lot of our sideboard is just kind of built to beat this red deck that's everywhere. Okay. So, opening hand, we have a Krark, a Standard Bearer, a Glitters, a Heliod's Pilgrim. We have red mana to cast everything. This hand looks absolutely great. The only downside is we only have one white source, and if they're running something like Cast in the Fire, they could just destroy this and we'd be in some serious trouble. However, most aggressive red decks are usually running not Cast in the Fire, but the one that destroys an artifact and deals 3 damage. So this is indestructible, so I'm not really too worried about my land being destroyed. Our opponents kept 7. And yeah, so we play our Silver Bluff Bridge just in case they have like Cast in the Fire. We want to leave the bridge out as a target. So they play a Swift Spear, they have a Synthesizer, they have a Lotus Petal, and they have another Swift Spear, so they're attacking us pretty quickly. And then what do we have? We have Krark Clan Shaman, so we can kind of wipe their board whenever we want to. And we also have this Blue Blast, which is pretty sweet. And we drew a Glitters for the turn, so we just play another land, hold up our Hydroblast, hold up our defense, and you know, we can play this game a little bit slowly because eventually we'll probably be tutoring up Lifelink with this Heliod's Pilgrim. Okay, so our opponent just bolts us. I'm fine with letting that go because this Swift Spear will deal more damage to us in the long term. It looks like they're on a very burn-oriented game plan instead of the Kuldotha tokens, which is still fine. We have this Hydro. So they attack us, and we're going to Hydro down one of their creatures. And they bolt us again. So we're at 2 when all this is over. That's not very much. But we do have a Standard Bearer, so that can soak up a potential Lightning Bolt. And we also have all these Glitters. Wow, do we have a lot of Glitters. We're kind of Glitters flooded, to be honest, because, like, we don't actually have that many artifacts. We only have 2 artifacts in play. We'd rather have one of these be a Phyrexian Walker or something. So they... that went a little fast, but they cracked their experimental synthesizer. They got a Kuldotha Rebirth in Exile. So now they're going to rebirth the Lotus Petal. And they have a bunch of Goblin tokens. Kind of the nightmare scenario. So we're actually going to need to use this Shaman, I think, to wipe the board. So they attack us for 2. So I'm trying to remember what I did here. I believe I just chump blocked with Standard Bearer. And then I play Glitters on the Krark Clan Shaman with the intent to wipe their board. And it's not the perfect play because if I don't draw an artifact here, our Krark Clan Shaman will actually just be a 4/4, and if I sacrifice 2 artifacts to wipe their board, then my Krark will also die. Still, I think this is my best shot in winning the game. And even if Krark dies, like, I can tap all my mana, sack both lands, play a Pilgrim, and then hope to draw a white source. But I think we draw an artifact here. Yeah, we draw a Silver Bluff Bridge, which is pretty good. So that means I can either Krark destroy their board, or I could cast Glitters on Krark and keep the Krark alive. Now I think it's actually correct to just play Heliod's Pilgrim for a lifelink enchantment here and just wipe their board without saving my Krark. They have 0 cards in their hand, so it's going to be difficult for them to play a lot of creatures, but I do need to gain life in order to not get punked out by Lightning Bolt. So it looks like I tap the mana first, and then I sacrifice the lands. holding priority, very important. And again, tapping for mana, and then casting Pilgrim post-combat. So I search for lifelink, and if I can dodge removal and or burn for this one turn, then I'm pretty well set up to win. I guess I need to dodge burn for the next 2 turns. Okay, so they kind of bricked. They cast a Reckless Impulse, and they hit land Lotus Petal. So our opponent, luckily for us, kind of bricking off. We draw another Krark Land Shaman, which is not really going to help us win this game. I'm going to Glitters and just leave up blocks in case they draw Swift Spear. Or like Reckless Impulse into Swift Spear, Lotus Petal or something. So they do nothing. They have 1 card in their hand. I am going to target my Pilgrim with lifelink. Ornithopter is an okay draw. It means I'm going to gain another life. And yeah, and then I hit my opponent down and I gain 5 life, which is the most important thing. And I still have this Krark in hand if they like somehow storm off. But they play a Synth. They draw a Great Furnace. And they crack their Synth. They get an Epicure. They play their Epicure. And they play a Bushwhacker. So this isn't quite lethal damage because I can block with my Ornithopter. But it's close. So that must have been their draw for last turn when they didn't play anything, was the Bushwhacker. So I chump block, try and save as much damage as I can. And I've got another Glitters for extra lifelink. And they can't do anything tricky like kill their own token, so I don't gain any life. So we're just going to swing out. And we're at 11, which is pretty healthy. They still have draws that can get them out of this, but the door is closing fast. And it looks like they just drew air. So we got a little bit lucky drawing the Krark Land Shaman in game 1. And like just barely hanging on. They didn't really draw too much to punish us for our slow, more controlling line. But yeah, scoreboard, we win 1 match. Alright, on to match 2, playing against Lost on Kato. Alright, so we lost the die roll. Once again, our opponent is playing first. And this hand has no white mana and 5 white cards. I think I mulligan this one. Yeah. So this hand's much better. It has 2 untapped white sources, a Springleaf Drum, Ornithopter, Thraben. So basically it has both a non-human and 3 humans. It has Heliod's Pilgrim to get glitters. It has Springleaf Drum to fix our colors. Just a good all-around hand. I think I throw back Standard Bearer here. Oh no, I throw back Ornithopter. So I guess my reasoning is that in a vacuum, Ornithopter is the weakest card in the hand. Standard Bearer has the potential to win against like Heroic or something. This is the kind of card that's either really good or really bad. And on a mold of 6, I guess I'm gambling on the chance that it's really good. Okay, our opponent's playing Affinity. They're playing Silver Bluff Bridge, but I don't think it's the mirror. I think they're probably running Grixis. So we draw Thoughtcast, which is obviously very good. We just run out our Thraben Inspector. I don't think they're going to kill it. If they really are Grixis, it seems like they're probably going to spend their next turn playing Ichor Wellspring or something. Okay, they just play Rustvale Bridge. So they're not Grixis Affinity like I thought. They're actually some Jeskai variant. Sealer Synod, also a pretty good draw. So if we want to, we could play like a Springleaf Drum plus Thoughtcast. Or we could just play Standard Bearer. We could play Springleaf Drum plus Standard Bearer. I believe I cast Thoughtcast here. But it's possible I play around Spell Pierce. Okay, I'm just getting in there. I guess my reasoning is that Thoughtcast is going to be free next turn. Yeah, okay, I guess I play Springleaf Drum Thoughtcast this turn. Oh no. Okay, well I guess I play Standard Bearer. I don't know if I like that play. But it plays around Spell Pierce. It also sort of stifles their removal, so they have to spend it on Standard Bearer first. It also makes it so Thoughtcast is free next turn without really having to put much effort in. I could also have the option of playing Heliod's Pilgrim next turn if I want to. I guess this play is actually pretty good, now that I think about it. Okay, they play Spirited Companion. I'm not really sure what deck they're running, so I remember during the game I actually looked up what deck they're playing. It turns out they're playing some sort of Jeskai Affinity deck with like value from Spirited Companion. I think they played like Core Skyfisher and stuff. So the reason I liked playing Standard Bearer out last turn, even though I was kind of criticizing myself for it, was because I can play Springleaf Drum and tap the Standard Bearer with it. So I get in for 1 first, and then I play the drum. Usually Standard Bearer is like one of the first creatures you want to tap with the drum. A prime drum target. And then I play Heliod's Pilgrim, and I get the thing. The thing that wins me the game. So our opponent has a Mole Drifter. Hopefully they do not ephemerate this, because that would be bad. Okay, they pump fake like they do have an ephemerate, but they don't actually. They are holding up red mana, which could mean Lightning Bolt, but because we have the Standard Bearer out, we can just play our Glitters and play it without fear. So first we Thoughtcast to draw cards, and oh look, it's another Glitter, it's nice. So we are going to Glitters up our Inspector. They bolt Standard Bearer in response. That's totally cool. And then I could play Ancient Den and play another Glitters on my Heliod's Pilgrim. It's actually a bad play letting my Standard Bearer die. I think I just kind of forgot that I could tap it for mana. But regardless, I still tap the Heliod's Pilgrim for mana. Like, that was a clear mistake on my part, but I think it's still correct to just run the Glitters out there. Making 2 really enormous threats, putting them into sort of the double Abyss lock, I think is important, even though I don't necessarily have to... well, even though because of that mistake, I don't get to attack with the Pilgrim this turn. And I'm sort of gambling on the fact that they don't have Journey to Nowhere in their deck. They played mostly red lands so far, so it's reasonable to assume they only have red removal. And also I looked up their deck list and it didn't have any Journeys in it, so that's another reason I wasn't playing around it. Yeah, Journey, Snap would both kind of get us here, but we have a Fling, which is cool, so we can like Fling in response. So again, they have a Strands, but again, we have the Fling. So we just fling and killed them. So that was a pretty good showcase of fling being able to play around what would otherwise be an awkward strands. They would be able to fog us for 2 turns. And fling just says, no, we're going to kill you right now. Alright, game 2. Sideboarding against Boros is always a little bit awkward. I say Boros even though they're Jeskai, but it's sort of the same thing. So in red-white, there are a lot of sideboard cards that can beat Affinity, that can beat enchantments. And you kind of can't really play around everything, so you basically want just like flexible answers. So let's see what I brought in. I don't actually remember. It looks like I brought in 2 copies of Blue Blast and 2 copies of Blacksmith Skill. I took out the Krark clan Shamans entirely. Most of their board has flying, so Krark is not at its best. I brought in the Spell Pierce because it's sort of a good flexible answer to a lot of threats they could have. They could have Dust to Dust, they could have Cast in the Fire. They could have Dawnbringer Cleric. So I bring in the Blacksmith Skill to counter like all that. And then I side out 2 copies of Heliod's Pilgrim. Just because in these sort of grindy mirrors, sometimes I just play the Pilgrim and it doesn't have any targets because I've already played all 4 of my glitters already. Maybe that was a mistake citing too many of these out, but it's also just kind of clunky. And Standard Bearer, I like that I sided this out. Even though it was good last game, I don't think it's that good in general. So we're going down a lot of humans here, which is kind of worrying. And another card to watch out for is Gorilla Shaman, so maybe I should have brought in more blasts. But anyway, let's see how this plays out. I'm kind of feeling the matchup as I go. And I know I looked my opponent's deck list up online, but even after looking it up, like they had a bunch of like different options for destroying my stuff. And I'm not really sure how they sideboarded, whether they were more focused on a value plan or what. Okay, so I mulliganed a couple of no-landers. Sag, but also I got this hand, which is pretty juicy. Yeah, I've got Drum, both of my colors of mana, Inspector Glitters, and some blue spells. So I believe I throw back probably Drum, Blue Blast. Drum isn't great because they're probably going to be killing my Thraben Inspector at some point. Maybe I throw back Drum of One Mind, because Blue Blast can protect my Thraben Inspector, and I might need to sort of YOLO the glitters onto it. I don't know. Let's see what happens. Okay, throw back the Blue Blast. Yeah, that's kind of situational and not always good. I think I probably throw back the Drum. Oh no, I bring it back into my hand. Okay, no, I do throw those 2 back. Yeah, I think this is a good, reasonable keep, but we'll see how it affects the play. So our opponent played a bridge. I am going to play Thraben Inspector. We draw another of One Mind, which isn't great. We can't currently cast that. And if they can answer our Thraben Inspector or our glitters, we don't really have a whole lot going on. And it turns out none of the above, they actually answer our land with Cast in the Fire. So that's pretty awful, but we draw another land to make up for it. Unfortunately, it's a blue land, so we can't actually really cast anything right now. We will be able to crack this clue, though. They have a Spirited Companion, so they're drawing a card. They play Restvale Bridge. We draw a Thoughtcast. So Thoughtcast is obviously a very good draw here. We're going to be casting that. It's 2 mana, but, you know, sometimes your Thoughtcasts are expensive. Then we play our Ornithopter. Might have been a mistake to play the Ornithopter, but there's a non-zero chance that I'm going to be glittersing it and attacking with it next turn, so I don't want it to have Summoning Sickness. Our opponent taps a lot of mana casting a Mole Drifter. So because I know they have Strands, it's kind of awkward whether I enchant the Ornithopter or the Inspector. Normally, people will side out Strands against me, and they'll side in artifact removal, so I generally tend to favor glittersing the human. But we can't do that yet because we don't have white mana. So first we cast Of One Mind because it's turned on. We draw a couple of Phyrexian Walkers and a Restvale Bridge. So Restvale Bridge is our white source. So we play Of One Mind again. Usually you play Of One Mind first because it's a little bit more fickle. Thoughtcast is usually turned on. Of One Mind is turned on less often. So we play our bridge and then we pass. And they had Moldrifter Ephemerate, so they get 2 more cards. And they have 10 cards in their hands. That's pretty good. So they have a Cleansing Wildfire. They Cleansing Wildfire targeting our Seat of the Synod, even though they have an indestructible land. Because they're... Whoops. Sorry. I tilted the microphone a little bit. Yeah, so they're targeting our land because they suspect that we aren't running any basics. Little do they know that I have 1 basic in my deck. But then they cast in the fire our Restvale Bridge, and we're sad again. If we had a basic plains, we could sort of play around that, but such is life, I suppose. We'll just keep thought casting. Drawing this blue blast is great. It means that if they have another cast in the fire, we can counter it. They ephemerate their Moldrifter. Draw 2 more cards. They cast Inspiring Overseer. So it looks like they're valuing us out. But we have a blue blast, so we can enchant our Thraben Inspector with glitters. And protect our creature from lightning bolts. So first we play Springleaf Drum to up the artifact count. We glitters our Inspector. And they have a lightning bolt, and we have a blue blast. So that's pretty cool. So we finally got our glitters on. And there is an argument for waiting on this, so I can cast like Temur Battle Rage and play around Dawnbringer Cleric. I don't think that's wise. They just have so much mana and they're drawing so many cards off their ephemerates that I think waiting is just bad for us. We kind of just have to get lucky and hope they don't have a way to deal with the glitters. Or the creature. So they're tapping their mana. And they do have a Dawnbringer Cleric. Which is pretty sad, but Okay, we could just draw another Glitters, which might get us out of this if they don't have another Lightning Bolt. Let's see, we draw Thraben Inspector. Not the best. So I think I decided to crack a clue here, looking for Glitters. We draw Phyrexian Walker. And we pass the turn, leaving up our clue activation. I actually decided to activate it now in case I draw a tap land. Okay, but we still make our land drop. They just bolt our Ornithopter, so probably they've got another Lightning Bolt in their hand if they're willing to just spew it off. And they're just clearing the flyer so they can attack and win the game faster. And they ephemerate their Muldrifter again. So they've probably drawn like 4, 8, now 10 cards off of this one Muldrifter. And there's, yeah, really nothing we can do about it. They have Ardent Elementalist. And I believe I concede very quickly. I guess if I draw like a Thoughtcast into specifically Counterspell plus Glitters, I could attack Glitters, Temur Battle Rage, and protect it. That's one thing about playing these Thoughtcast decks. You can't just concede. And we do draw the Thoughtcast. Actually of one mind, but you know. And we brick off. So we actually did have a fighting chance. Maybe they have 2 Lightning Bolts in their hand and we would have died anyways, but we still did have a fighting chance despite the fact that they drew a ton of cards more than we did. Actually, they didn't actually draw that many more cards because we have 34 cards and they only have 30 in their library. Anyway, regardless, we're kind of getting ranched. So we just play our spells anyway, and I think I'm just going to hit the play button, because I think the rest of this game is pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, I end up flinging in response, and they have Estrands, which I think was in their graveyard before, but I just didn't see it. Okay, on to game 3. So learning from game 2 when they cast Into the Fire twice, I actually side in all the blue blasts. And I side out Metallic Rebuke. It's a little situational, and sometimes we don't have enough artifacts to turn it on. And I also side out all the Standard Bearers. I side out 1 Phyrexian Walker, and the Krarks, and 2 Pilgrims still. And I just bring in all the blue blasts, Spell Pierce. I don't think I should be running Temur Battle Rage and Fling. Although they showed me that they're willing to play Prismatic Strands in the post-board games, which I think is actually correct. I think they should definitely be doing that. So maybe I should side out the Temur Battle Rages and leave in the Flings, so I can sort of like get them at instant speed whenever I want to. But I think probably the Pilgrims are better than Temur Battle Rages, thinking about it again. But anyway, this is how I boarded. Definitely the most important thing is having all these blue blasts so we can just counter their Wildfire / Cast in the Fire, because that's how they pull ahead early. Okay, and we decide to play first. And we get this juicy hand. So we have a human, a non-human. We have a Springleaf Drum to ramp. We have of 1 mind to draw to. And 3 lands. So if they cast in the fire something, we're not really too sad. Yeah, redundancy in all of our colors. We did draw our 1 island. So if they Wildfire us, then we don't have any targets. But other than that, this hand is pretty amazing. So we lead on Springleaf Drum because they cannot lightning bolt the Springleaf Drum. And next turn we can just play Inspector, Ginger Brute, and then gas up with Up One Mind. We could have actually played the other Springleaf Drum here. Maybe we do that. Oh no, I don't do that. Maybe that was bad. Maybe I should have played the other drum. But I'm kind of assuming that one of these creatures is going to get removed anyways, so I guess I'd rather get in the point of damage than play the other drum, which may not have good utility. That might be a bit of a sus play, but... Okay, so they have red, white. They Cleansing Wildfire our land, so they rightly guess that we do not have any more basics left. But luckily we do have more lands, and we draw Blacksmith Skill, which is nice. So we can protect our lands now when they try and kill them. And we have Thoughtcast. I'm still not playing this drum, but we draw Ornithopter, which has 0 power, and it's very good to tap with the drum. So we do that, we attack for 2, and then we leave up Blacksmith Skill. Leaving up Blacksmith Skill is the tempo play. Okay, and then I don't believe they have a land drop here. Okay, they're going after our lands again. So yeah, we make it so that their Cleansing Wildfire is countered. Oh no, they do make their land drop. Alright, chill. Alright, so we're gonna play our... Do I crack a clue here? That can't be right. I think playing the Inspectors is better. Yeah, I think the Inspectors are better because it just gets my beat down on. Maybe I'm afraid of something like Breath Weapon. Yeah, I'm not sure why I didn't just play those out. Oh, oops. Sorry, I hit the wrong one. So yeah, I tap the Ornithopter, play Springleaf Drum, attack. I guess this is a more conservative approach. I don't want to commit too much things to the board. Also, this is kind of tricky, but I hide the fact... By playing Springleaf Drum, I give myself the 5th mana to where I can Heliod's Pilgrim plus Glitters in the same turn. So they have Mold Drifter. Let's see if they have the FM. Okay, they don't this time, so that's lucky for us. And... Okay, we drew Seed of the Synod. So a play that we could make if we feel so inclined is we could play Seed of the Synod and then give our Ginger Brute unblockable and then play Heliod's Pilgrim and then give it Glitters. I'm not going to do that because why would I do that? They don't have any creatures. But they also have red mana untapped. So I could get Benevolent Blessing with our Pilgrim here because we're more likely to draw Glitters just naturally. I play a Thraben Inspector first. So I'm kind of slow rolling this Heliod's Pilgrim. And then I crack the clue. Okay, Temur Battle Rage is amazing. And then I think I just play another Inspector here. Then I attack. Alright, so I guess I wanted to draw off the clue first in case I draw something that makes me change how I attack. Oh no, I just used my mana up. Alright, so they know I have glitters in my hand. Let's see if I get glitters here. Yeah, I do. Okay, so they know I have a glitters in my hand, but they don't know that I have this Teamer Battle Rage. And they tap out for late to dinner, which is great for us. Now, they do have 8 cards in hand. It might be their plan to, like, discard a Strands. Oh no, they have a land drop. I guess this was their plan. So I guess my reasoning for getting Glitters instead of Benevolent Blessing is that Glitters on its own is sort of a protection from red spell. Because if I have 2 Glitters, I can enchant something and then enchant something else. Thoughtcast is an amazing draw. So with this Thoughtcast, we're very, very likely to draw a Blue Blast or a Spell Pierce and just win the game on the spot. So I'm going to cast that. And we do draw the Blue Blast. Yeah. And you might say it's lucky to draw the Blue Blast or the Thoughtcast. It's actually luckier to draw the Thoughtcast, but like, we do have the 4 copies of Blue Blast plus Blacksmith Skill, 1 copy of Blacksmith Skill, plus Mana Tithe. So we are drawing pretty live, plus other copies of All That Glitters, plus Heliod's Pilgrim. Actually, I might not have enough mana for Heliod's Pilgrim to be really good. Yeah, it's probably fine. But anyway, yeah, I have enough mana to play Heliod's Pilgrim and 2 copies of Glitters, but not Teamer Battle Rage. So anyway, they didn't end up having a Lightning Bolt anyways, so I was kind of just worried about nothing. But I equip my Ginger Brute just for fun, even though it doesn't really matter whether it's unblockable or not. And I attack with a gigantic double striking Trampler. Alright, on to match 3. So we're 2-0, and we're playing 3rd game. The 3rd match, excuse me. We're playing against Igor Sergio. This hand's pretty good most of the time. It's a little bit slow, but you know, sometimes you have to keep slow hands. So yeah, we've got all our colors, and we've got a Pilgrim to get a Glitters. All we need is like a 0 or a 1 drop, and we're golden. So our opponent's on the play, and they play Great Furnace. Oh no, this hand's really slow. I don't know if I can beat this blazing fast deck. So if I'd known my opponent was on mono red, I probably would not have kept this hand, but such is life. So I played Razortide Bridge. And then they just play Swiss Spears and start attacking me. So we are at 17, which isn't that bad. We're going to play the drum, and then play bridge, and chill. And they're going to attack us with 3 Swift Spears this time, and then probably they're going to be able to trigger Prowess. They have Burning Tree Emissary, so Prowess is still on the table. They have a Lightning Bolt. They have 1 card in their hand, which is good, but we're taking quite a lot of damage this turn. We're taking 3 plus 6, so we're taking 9. A little less than half of our starting life total. So the only card that can get us out of this spot, once again, is Krark Clan Shaman. And we don't draw it. Sad. if we draw off of one mind, we can actually draw like an Ornithopter, tap Springleaf Shrum, and cast Krark Clan Shaman. But we have to hit exactly Ornithopter plus Krark Clan Shaman. I decide that that's pretty unlikely, so I just cast the Pilgrim as a chump blocker and then hope they don't have enough ways to kill me. So I get a Glitters, the jig is up, I'm playing a Glitters deck and not like some weird Jeskai deck. And yeah, they have a Bushwhacker for lethal. I make them attack me in case I miscounted. Oh no, wait, no, I just concede. Alright, so this is the typical red sideboard. So we take out 3 Standard Bearers, Metallic Rebuke, of 1 Mind, and then the Flings and the Teamer Battle Rage and the Ginger Brutes. Now you might be saying Ginger Brute gains life, but yeah, it's kind of slow. And we bring in 4 copies of Blue Blast, Spell Pierce, Lifelink, and Honorable Scout. Okay. So we're on the play this time. And this hand is great. Oh my goodness, this hand's really good. So we have an Inspector, we have Glitters, and Hydroblast to protect everything. Yeah, Krark Clan Shaman would be good in this hand, just as a way to like... Okay, they have Seal of Fire, which is actually a huge problem. So what they can do is they can Seal of Fire. Sorry, I didn't finish my thought there. So if we had Krark Clan Shaman, that would act as like a protection against some of their more busted draws. Because like obviously Thraben Inspector Glitters is fine, but like it's basically just one big creature. And Krark Clan Shaman would pair with it very well because it would kill their board while leaving my big creature alive. But anyway, Seal of Fire is a huge problem because they can activate it at any time. They don't have to pay mana, and they just sacrifice it to kill my creature. So I can't really Glitters it without dealing with the Seal of Fire first. And I might actually even end up having to Hydroblast it at some point. Although I have this Phyrexian Walker, which has 3 toughness. So now I sort of shift my thinking to, I have to protect this Walker. Because if I can get the Glitters on it and they don't have artifact removal, that's really good. They can't kill it with Seal of Fire. So they Reckless Impulse. Yeah, they play a land first and then they Reckless Impulse. And they hit Seal of Fire, Smash to Smithereens. So I'm like, okay, they're going to probably try and smash one of my things next turn. And I have to be aware of that and leave up Hydroblast. Because my game plan sort of relies on this Walker. So I drew Of One Mind, which is actually pretty nice. So I can cast Thraben Inspector. If they're really savvy, they could sack Seal of Fire to kill Thraben Inspector, preventing me from turning on Of One Mind. But they don't know that I have an Of One Mind in my hand. That's kind of a weird play to make. But it would have got me if they did that. I don't know if it's correct given the information that my opponent knows. Okay, so I just dumped my board here. I played Springleaf Shrum, Thraben Inspector, and I'm holding up another Springleaf Drum. And I don't attack for obvious reasons. It's possible I should have Glitters this at some point during the turn and just started attacking. Because I already have the Hydroblast. But my opponent, I think, is digging for land drops. They didn't cast Smash to Smithereens on any of my artifacts. And, like, I kind of don't blame them. Because, like, none of my artifacts are really that important on their own. Like, sure, yeah, it deals 3 damage, but it's more important for them to be able to get their game plan moving. So they play another Seal of Fire. And they haven't played a land drop, and I kind of suspect that they did not draw land for the turn because of the way they've been playing. So they drop another Seal of Fire, which is actually kind of bad. I think I actually should have Hydroblasted it when it was on the stack. So now I kind of have to make the awkward play of Hydroblasting one of them. Okay, we drew Mana Tithe, which is sweet. So if I glitters up my Walker now, they can double Seal of Fire it in response. So I have to Hydroblast one of them first. So I Hydroblast it, they sacrifice it, targeting the Thraben Inspector. And it dies. And then I glitters up my Walker. Now, they could have another Smash to Smithereens, but I have Mana Tithe for it, assuming they don't draw another land. And then I'm attacking them for 9. So I'm fairly likely to have them dead. Next turn. They have a Name Sticker Goblin, so I'm like, okay, I can Mana Tithe this. Or I could just let it resolve, let them dump their board, but I think Mana Tithing is pretty strong. Okay. And we draw the Krark Clan Shaman anyway, so even if they did flood the board, it wouldn't have been that good. So I can attack for 10 here, which is not lethal. So I instead crack a clue, hoping to draw something like Thoughtcast that I can chain together. And that doesn't happen. Instead I draw Razor Tide Bridge and attack for 9. And if I remember correctly, my opponent makes a pretty impressive play on the next turn. I think I should have played the Shaman. Just because of this exact play that my opponent makes here. There's really just no downside to playing the Shaman. Like, they Seal of Fire it, but it actually just spends their Seal of Fire, and I can chump block with the Thraben Inspector if I have to. So yeah, that's a slight misplay from my part. That ends up almost costing me the game. So anyway, while I was talking, they're playing Kuldotha Rebirth plus Name Sticker Goblin. They hit 6. So my Name Sticker Goblin opponents are running hot with this, always hitting 6. I don't think that any of them have hit 4 a single time. So they Synthesizer, exiling Goblin Grenade. They sack the Synthesizer again for another Kuldotha Rebirth. And then they have a Bushwhacker, and they have a Goblin Grenade waiting. So basically they have actual lethal here. Because what they can do is they can sack Seal of Fire, and they have 14... No, wait, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is 14. Plus another 3. Wait, maybe they don't have lethal, actually. I thought they did. Okay, I think what their play has to be here, if they want to threaten lethal this turn, is they have to sack their Goblin Bushwhacker to Goblin Grenade. I'm at 15. Then they seal a fire my Thraben Inspector and attack for exactly. Because this is exactly 15 on the board if they sack their Bushwhacker. And they start to do that. Well, they sack a Goblin token. And I start to get worried because I'm like, what if they prevent me from blocking? And they attack with everything, but then they hang back. So I think what they're doing here is they're playing around like a protection spell, like a blacksmith skill, or maybe like a hydroblast or something. Although probably I would have cast the hydroblast earlier this turn. But if they seal a fire and it doesn't work, then I can attack them for lethal. Like if they swing out with everything. So they're taking a sort of more conservative line where they're only attacking for mostly lethal, and then they'll have a board that can probably kill me next turn. So I make my chump block. And then I tap my mana. So I tap my clue, draw a card off of it. But you could see how this would have been avoided if I just played Krark Land Shaman, because they wouldn't have had the Seal of Fire to clear the way. But yeah, remember, they started this turn with no creatures in play, so they kind of stormed off on me. We got very lucky to win this. And they haven't actually seen Krark Land Shaman from me yet. So they're probably thinking like, okay, I'll just chump block. But turns out they can't chump block. Because I wipe their board. And I win game 2 by the skin of my teeth. And then game 3. Alright, so game 3 is the same sideboard as last time. And we have Blue Blast, Honorable Scout, Ornithopter, and 4 land drops. This is a bit land heavy, but we have 2 of our best cards in the matchup. And we could draw Thoughtcast, Heliod's Pilgrim, all that glitters. We could draw a lot of really good cards. So I decided to keep this hand. And especially because we're on the draw. We want a lot of life gain, which is what our Honorable Scout does. And we want Blue Blast. And we also want to have access to all of our colors. So Moto is breaking on me. It's nice. Okay. Thank you, Moto. I appreciate it. Alright, let's watch that one later. Okay, I think I'm gonna have to like open this up somehow. What the hell? Okay, it's back. Alright, so it's back. Right. Okay, so I play a tap land and pass the turn, playing Razortide Bridge, which gives me the option of casting either Honorable Scout or Blue Elemental Blast. Although probably I'm not going to be playing Honorable Scout. They have a Seal of Fire again, which is really annoying. Just the ability to always... Basically, this is a counter spell to all that glitters. that they can just play out on the board. Luckily, we drew our Phyrexian Walker again, which is our counter spell to their Seal of Fire. And, okay, they impulsed into Bushwhacker Synthesizer, which is not the best. That's really not the order that you want to draw these in. But anyway, I play Silverbrush Bridge. I don't play out any of my creatures yet because I don't want them to be vulnerable. I especially don't want my Phyrexian Walker to be vulnerable. Okay, so they're casting Synthesizer. They exiled another Reckless Impulse off of it, which they cannot cast. And they're playing Bushwhacker, and they missed their land drop. Okay. We're hitting all our land drops, and we drew Heliod's Pilgrim, which is a good draw. I don't think we actually cast it this turn. Once they hit their third land, they can play Namesticker Goblin, and that's a card I'm very afraid of. They have 5 cards in their hand. I guess it's a bit risky for us, but like, okay, maybe we can't just play around their best draws forever. So we've got Heliod's Pilgrim, and we are searching for an enchantment. I believe I actually get lifelink here. Just because... Oh no, we get Benevolent Blessing? What? I don't agree with that. I think I should be getting lifelink here. Because we are pretty likely to draw in all that glitters at some point. I guess Benevolent Blessing gives me a pro-red creature that can block forever. Oh, now I remember what my plan was. Okay, sorry. So my plan is to play Walker and put Blessing on it. Shaman's a good draw. So I play out my creatures now that I have the Blessing. And I have of one mind, so I can do that. I draw lifelink anyway. And then I don't play my Walker. I think they hit this off of Kol'Jotha Rebirth, sacrificing an artifact. They hit their third land drop. So they could not have played Namesticker Goblin last turn, but they can play it now. So I don't want to play my Walker because I want to enchant it with Blessing guaranteed. But I also want to hold up Blue Blast in case they have like another Bushwhacker. Okay, so they bolt my Pilgrim, that's cool. If I remember right, I make a pretty sick play here. Okay, they don't actually have a Goblin. Or do they? They're exiling a Great Furnace off of their Synthesizer. And then they attack for 4. I think I block here. Yeah, I just blocked the Bushwhacker. They could have killed my Ornithopter first, but it looks like they have other plans. Oh, they're Goblin Grenading it. Okay, I guess they're just being very conservative and saving this as like a counter spell for my stuff. Alright, so I don't cast Blessing on that in response because obviously they're just gonna cast Seal of Fire. Okay. Anyway, so the sick play that I was thinking about is that if they storm off and make a bunch of goblins, if they played a Namesticker Goblin, I don't think I would counter it with Blue Blast. Because I'm saving it for countering a Bushwhacker. All their guys are going to have Summoning Sickness, so I play Honorable Scout. Then I play Krark Clan Shaman clearing the board. Okay, so I play Walker. And I do it now because I have 3 untapped mana. So I want to cast Blessing on it for sure. And if they have something in response, I give it pro red. So if they had like a artifact destruction spell, they tap their 2 mana, I can counter it with a blue blast. That didn't happen, but it's like they've been playing kind of cautiously and they've been holding up a lot of mana on these turn cycles. So anyway, I get my Honorable Scout in there anyways. I gain 6 life. Yeah, it looks like they don't have a lot of ways to develop to the board. So anyways, yeah, I play that guy. And now my plan is to cast Glitters plus Lifelink on my Phyrexian Walker. Finally, they put their Namesticker Goblin down. And like I said before, I just let it resolve. I let Synthesizer resolve. They have a Smash to Smithereens. Luckily, they cannot target my Walker with it. They crack Synth. And they smash my Ancient Den, which is actually a really good play from them, because it means I can't Glitters plus Lifelink. So I counter it, or I attempt to counter it, and they have a Red Blast. So, okay, they destroyed my white sources. I can still play Glitters and Lifelink over the next 2 turns. It just takes longer. They Lightning Bolt my guy, so I can't block. Alright, but my other guy has Pro Red, which is cool. So I can just block with him all day. And they have 0 cards in their hand. They have a Synth, but I don't know what they could hit off of the Synth. So I play Ornithopter just as a blocker, and then I play Glitters on my Pro Red creature. It's 8/11. So I can block anything. So I actually attack here, hoping they block with their Samurai token, because the only thing I'm worried about at this point is that they're going to block with a Samurai and then seal or fire their own Samurai so I don't gain life. So I'm hoping they block with it this turn so that next turn, when I play my Lifelink, that doesn't happen. That play doesn't happen where I don't gain the life. Now, I have a Krark land Shaman, so it doesn't really matter anyways, but, you know. Alright, so I make these blocks, and then I sack stuff. My Phyrexian Walker still has Pro Red, so it doesn't even take damage. And my opponent's tapping mana, they sack their Synthesizer, they get another Synthesizer. And they hit Goblin Bushwhacker, so they just cast that. Yeah, kind of unlucky timing for them on their Bushwhackers, but lucky for me that I have a 6/9, soon to be 8/11 life-linking pro-red creature. So I should have probably played this land first. I was kind of assuming they would block and then seal a fire their own guy, and then hope to spike some ridiculous string of draws. But it turns out they didn't block. And now I'm at 25. And they're still playing. They get a Namesticker Goblin off a Synthesizer, which is really awkward for them. But they still have Samurai tokens, they can block me, and they're attacking me for 4. So now I'm down to 21. Alright, so I just attack. It's lethal. 7 life is enough. Like, I don't need to get greedy and gain 9 life. And I play Walker as a blocker. So I guess if I was going to play those out, I should have done a pre-combat, but it really doesn't matter at this point. Alright, so that was match 3. Match 4. Playing against Rob 85 TX. We lost the die roll for the third time this league. And our hand looks okay. It's a little strange. We have 2 pilgrims. We have our basic island, and we have a metallic rebuke. So this hand's, again, very slow. It's good against most things that don't like jump out of the gates immediately. Krark Clan Shaman's awkward because we can't cast it currently, but maybe they'll be good eventually. But, I mean, we have 3 lands. We could cast our spells. Most of our draws in our deck are pretty good. So we decide to keep. Silver Bluff Bridge is a pretty good draw. It's actually a mediocre draw. It lets us cast Shaman, but it doesn't let us do that much else. So already I'm kind of sussed out by my opponent's choice of play, because usually Blue-White Affinity does not run Silver Bluff Bridge. So my opponent's on a bit of a rogue deck, if I remember right. They're on Jeskai Affinity, but they're not running the same stuff that I am. I think they're running Krark Clan Shaman too, actually. But they're on more of an affinity-based plan, and I'm on more of a Pilgrim Glitters U plan. So I run my Shaman out there because what else am I going to do? I can't hold up Rebuke this turn. Next turn I'll be able to hold it up if I choose. And they have a Glitters, so I'm like, ugh. Am I going to be able to beat this Glitters up Frogmite? Or should I sack 2 artifacts right now? Obviously, I don't want to sack any artifacts, because I need those. And I think I just let it resolve, because I figure, well, maybe I can outvalue my opponent and just chump block for the rest of the game. Because it's not really evasive, and as far as I know, they don't have a way to give it evasion, and they don't actually have that many artifacts in play right now, so I just decided to take 6 and save my chump blockers for later. But still, it feels like I'm under the gun. So I'm like, okay, I gotta make something happen. So I play my Heliod's Pilgrim. And I get a Glitters. So I'm like, okay, I'm set up for next turn. And I decide to attack for 2. If I need to chump block, I can block with the Pilgrim. Also, my opponent mulligans to 6 this game. Yeah. So they're stuck on 2 lands. They had to tap 2 lands to play a Frogmite. This is why I don't like playing affinity creatures. Because it just has such a high fail rate. Like, and I'm not even destroying their artifacts. And they still have to tap them for mana. Like, look, ridiculous. Why should you have to tap mana to play a creature? Alright, but anyway, they play a Frogmite. They're attacking me for 7. I chump block with my Heliod's Pilgrim because I figure preserving my life total is important. I've never really seen their deck before, and I've kind of assumed they're running Galv Blast, or at least it's something I'm aware of. So, yeah, I'm trying to kind of keep my life total high. So I Glitters the Shaman. I have a Rebuke, so I can counter a Galv Blast if they Galv my Shaman. And I figure it might be useful to have a repeatable board wipe. I think that's my reasoning here. So they do have the Galv, in fact, and I Rebuke it. Notably, this would not have worked with Mana Tithe, so maybe I should replace it with a Force Spike. Alright, score 1 for the good guys, and we're going to be down for 6. So yeah, one awkward thing with the Krark Clan Shaman with the glitters on it is you have to really pay attention to how many artifacts you have, because every artifact that you sacrifice is one less for glitters. So if I sack 3 artifacts here, my guy's a 6/6 now, but by the end of it it'll be a 3/3. So yeah, it's just something to be aware of if you choose to play this deck. Okay, so anyway, they're attacking for 8. I chump block. They still don't have any land drops. And next turn I'm going to have another chump blocker and I'm going to be able to Thoughtcast. Life is good. They have a synthesizer, which is kind of weird. It makes me think that they have like Glint Hawk. They've only shown me Jeskai colors, so I don't think they have like Deadly Dispute or anything, but they probably have like Glint Hawk. Or maybe Core Skyfisher or something. Teamer Battle Rage is a nice draw. I like that draw. That'll let me win the game very quickly. Also, I drew Fling, so that also lets me win the game. So here, I'm not really playing around main deck Blacksmith skill. Maybe I should be, but I'm attacking for 7. Teamer Battle Rage makes it 14. Double Strike. Yeah, and they don't even block. So yeah, double striking Krark Clan Shaman hitting you for 14. You love to see it. Alright, game 2. I believe this game is pretty unfortunate. I think my opponent mulligans pretty deep. Alright, this hand's amazing. So going to the sideboard again. I'm gonna shrink this. So yeah. My computer's running really slowly. It's not used to having OBS plus Magic online at the same time. What the hell? Alright, I'm just gonna make it bigger. Deal with it. Okay, so this is my normal sideboard. And this sideboard over here is the sideboard that I sided out. Alright, I'm trying to do the thing that I think it's Methodical always does, where he shows his sideboard in the split screen, but obviously I am not as well versed at it as he is. Whatever, we could just go on memory. I'm not gonna bother bringing it up again. Okay, so anyways, they're playing Affinity. So I'm not sure how many ground creatures they're gonna have. We suspect they have Glint Hawk and Core Skyfisher and possibly Ornithopter. So I don't think Krark Clan Shaman's that good. Also, maybe they have Mirror Enforcer, which is 4 toughness. And that's a lot of artifacts to sacrifice. So I'm not gonna do it with the Krark. Blacksmith skill is a consideration, but I decide against it because it really just protects my stuff. It doesn't attack their stuff. And I take out the Flings and Teamer Battle Rages because I don't think I'm really going to need them. And I also take out Benevolent Blessing because a lot of their stuff is colorless. And the protection isn't really that relevant a lot of the time. And I also I shave a Drum and a Walker because I'm cutting all my red cards. I feel like I don't need the extra fixing from Drum. And Walker is just kind of meh in this matchup, like, especially because they have Galv Blast. Like, Galv Blast just kills this. Okay, so what do I bring in? I bring in my 3 copies of Standard Bearer. Well, I bring in my 1 copy to form the full 3. Obviously very good against all that glitters. And I also bring in my Dust to Dust. And I bring in my Blue Blasts. I'm not sure how many red cards they're running, but I assume they're running Cast in the Fire. I've already seen Gallop Blast. I've already seen Experimental Synthesizer, so it's probably a good one to bring in. And I also bring in my Spell Pierce. So, yeah. Spell Pierce is good because it counters their Dust to Dust. Alright, so this is match 2. We have an amazing hand. We have Ancient Den, Seal of the Synod, Standard Bearer, Thoughtcast. This hand just lights up very quickly. Standard Bearer is great. And my opponent mulligans to 6. I keep this 7. They mulligan to 5. And I believe they mulligan to... Oh no, they didn't mulligan to 4. They mulligan to just 5. So I feel pretty favored just because of the mulligan to 5. So I'm like, alright, I'm going to attack with Gender Brute. Bam. 1 to the face. And I play Ornithopter. I'm not afraid to put my Ornithopter on the battlefield because, like, if they have a Cast in the Fire or something and they target the Ornithopter, I'm very happy. Okay, I was actually very afraid of Cast in the Fire here, but they just played Limbus. Yeah, if they kill my Ancient Den, I'm not a happy person. They scryed to the top. So I'm like, alright, I want more land drops. I want to keep the cards flowing. I could play Thoughtcast here. I could play Standard Bearer, but they don't have white mana yet. Looks like I play Standard Bearer anyways. I guess if they did have a Cast in the Fire, they would have cast it into the fire. But yeah, instead they just played their Limbus. Now they have a white source and they don't have any plays. So we keep drawing tap lands. It's alright. We could play a little bit slow. We could play Thoughtcast. And yeah, Cast in the Fire doesn't really do anything if they're hitting our lands. So we get in for 2, and they do have Cast in the Fire. I was playing around it the whole game, but it turns out they're using it to kill both of our creatures. That's a nice little 2-for-1 for them. But they still mulligan to 5. So I'm not like super ultra worried. They put their Limbus back in their deck. And they play another land. And pass the turn. I just play my Pilgrim. And I get a Glitters. That's the only enchantment I have post board. Well, that plus Lifelink, but Lifelink's already in my hand. So, one of the cool things about getting Glitters off Heliod's Pilgrim is that we sort of telegraph that we're going to maybe attempt to play Glitters next turn. And that means our opponent has to respect it. So they have to sort of like bend over backwards. They have to leave open mana. And then I'm just like, alright, I'll play Thoughtcast. As it so happens, I don't really figure my opponent's bending over backwards to leave 5 open mana. I think they just don't have anything, or maybe their hand's just really reactive. Either way, if they have a reactive hand, I don't want to play Glitters into their potential removal. Okay, so they Thoughtcast, they play a Rustvale Bridge, and finally they get something on the battlefield. And by itself, it's like the best thing, but we're gonna get something better than that very soon. So we're gonna glitters up our Heliod's Pilgrim. It works. I was not expecting that at all, based on the way my opponent was playing. They must just have lands or something in their hands. Not really sure. But like, yeah, I'm actually kind of shocked that worked. Oh, actually, I remember what I did here. It was super sick. So, based on the fact that it worked, I figured they probably don't have a removal spell, but based on the way they're playing, I feel like they have something. So I'm like, maybe they have a disenchant. So if they disenchant my glitters, I attack. They block with their Mirror Enforcer, and my Heliod's Pilgrim dies. I don't want my Heliod's Pilgrim to die. And again, we're enchanting the Pilgrim because it's not vulnerable to artifact removal. And we're playing our Phyrexian Walker to make this a 1920. It's turn 6, this is a 1920. I'm attacking my opponent with a lethal creature. Lethal all by itself. Okay, so they do actually have a disenchant, which I played around. And now they block, I think? No, they just take the 9. And then I think I play Lifelink. No, maybe I don't. Yeah, maybe I should have played that land pre-combat. But, you know, I already had lethal. I wanted to see what would happen. Although, I guess if I'm playing around Disenchant, then I'm assuming that I don't have lethal. Anyway, my opponent has Lembus. They pick it up, they play it again. They play it one more time, I guess looking for Thoughtcasts. They scryed a card to the top, and then they play a Mirror Enforcer. Which is fine, but like, yeah. Okay, and then I play Lifelink and they concede. So, I don't know, last turn was a little bit weird, but yeah, alright, that's match 4. Oh, there it is. Anyways, so match 5, I just intentionally drawed. I was like, I want to not play this game. I want to eat dinner. So I was like, I'm just going to intentionally draw with this guy. But yeah, looking up Mayhers on Magic Online, usually Mayhers plays Burn, but not the Koldatha tokens. They play like Firebrand Archer. Not Firebrand Archer, but the one that's like Firebrand Archer, Kessig Flamebreather, or whatever the hell his name is. So that would have been fun to play it out, but I just didn't feel like it. Anyway, this is the deck. It's pretty sweet. I'm going to post a link to it. So yeah, we went 5-0. And yeah, changes I might make. Fling, Temur, Battle Rage didn't really come up too often. They came up a little bit. I might sub, like, I might just like take these out of the 75 altogether. And then I might play like, I think I made some changes here. So I'm playing a main deck Spirit Link, which is cool. This is like Lifelink, but it's also kind of a removal spell. It's possible it should just be Lifelink, actually, because most of the time you're enchanting your own creatures, and it's better in combat if it's not a trigger, because you can gain life at the same time as they deal damage to you. I still kind of think Mana Tithe is funny. So I'm going to leave that in. And then I swapped a standard bearer for an obsidian acolyte because Black Gardens is a deck still, I guess. And I'm also playing Universal Automaton because it's a human. So this will like kind of bend the balance a little bit more towards humans, which I feel like is the less represented type. Krark Clan Shaman is great, so I played another copy. Overall, the deck felt pretty solid, though. So these are the changes I would make to the deck. Adding Lifelink as another tutor target. The counter spells remain the same. We're running 11 humans and 10 non-humans, but I think this is fine, because usually we could like Thoughtcast into one of these and play it for 0. But anyway, yeah. This deck, pretty strong. I think something like it is probably one of the best decks in the format. No real weaknesses. I mean, Elves kind of a weakness, but man, Krark Clan Shaman will just fuck up Elves. Like, yeah. Man, this card's hella good. Anyway, thanks for watching. I will see you in the next thing. Bye.